Hi, everybody. If you've never seen me before, my name is Ciara. I'm the teen librarian at Rawlings Library. And today I am going to introduce you to just some of the teen prize books for summer reading. There are a lot of prize books to choose from. So today I'm going to introduce you to 6, and we're going to do it according to genre. So today I am going to introduce you to our fantasy books and our graphic novels. Later this week, I'll be doing historical fiction and, horror, suspense, and mystery. So I'm going to get going, and I hope you guys will enjoy these. I thought they were pretty darn good. So our first book, also forgive me for mispronouncing lots of names. Okay, there we go. The first one is called Estranged. This is in the fantasy genre. And it's by Ethan Aldrich. Now, the two characters here are Edmund and the child. And they were actually swapped at birth. So, by the world, the world above and the world below. The world above is the human world, and the world below is the sort of fairy realm, lots of magic. And so they've been growing up in the opposite of where they were born. Edmund is doing his best to conceal his fae powers from his beloved family. And the child who's down below is mostly an object of curiosity. His parents are the king and queen, but he's sort of trotted around as this funny human, and it's a little bit sad down there. But then a menacing sorceress attacks the court down below and turns his parents into rats, and he's on the run. Since he is actually the heir to the crown, even though he's human. So he doesn't know what to do, and the only thing he can think of, because he doesn't really have any friends other than this candle guy who's magic and who can talk and is quite charming, the only person he can think to ask for help is Edmund. So he goes up into the world above and goes to Edmund's house, and Edmund is not interested in any of this. He just wants to stay with his beloved family, keep secret his powers, and live as he has been living. But then these crazy monsters from down below come up chasing the child, and they threaten Edmund's family. So Edmund, at that point, is saying, yes, I have to help you. I have to help you save your family and save the world below. So they set off to the world below to fight this sorceress. And they run into all sorts of characters, and it's very exciting. And you have to wonder, they're saving both worlds in a sense, even though they don't really know which one they belong to, by birth or by life. So, quite good. Enjoy it. I love the drawings of the two of them. They're identical except for their hair, and he grows some fae sort of armor weird stuff when he turns on his power. Anyway, good book. So next, we've got Wild Beauty. And this is by Anna Marie McLemore. And it's set in the lush gardens of La Pradera, which are tended by the magical hands of the, I'm going to mispronounce this, give me a minute, Nomilvides women. So it's the society in these gardens. And Estrella, or Estrella, probably Estrella since it's Spanish names, is a younger girl. And she is warned by her elders that They live with a curse, and that if any of them ever fall too in love with someone, that person will disappear. Shortly thereafter, Estrella and her cousins discover that they have all fallen for the same woman, and they're terrified. So they get together and they pray and give offerings, hoping for her safety. The next morning, a young man has appeared, but this young man has no memory. His memory is just gone. But the women of the society take him in, some thinking he's some sign of their lost lovers or something of that sort. And Estrella becomes very close with him. She bonds with him. And as she bonds with him, she starts to ask a lot of questions. She starts to ask questions about the rules of her society that she lives in, about the curse, and about love itself. And a question that sort of goes and goes and goes is, what's going to happen when this young man gets his memory back? And what is that going to tell us about this group? So I don't want to give anything away, but also Wild Beauty does feature gay, bisexual, and genderqueer characters. So, woo! That's just me saying woo! Anyway, so our third in the fantasy genre is called Juana and the Dragon Newt's 7 Kingdoms, Volume 1. Again, forgive me for my pronunciation. This is the first manga series by Kiyoshi Tanaka, and this is Volume 1. It's set in a fantastical future where everyone essentially thinks that humans are extinct, that they go by a different name, and I can't remember the name right now, but it's very long and hard to pronounce. And the Dragon Newts are sort of, the people who live there now. So this volume features Nid, a dragon newt who's he's shunned in his town because he's descended from carnivores, and that's shunned by everyone, everywhere he goes. It's quite terrible. And he is the one who finds this very, very large egg. An egg is breaking. And inside the egg is Juana. She's not a baby. She's about 7 years old. She's a human, and she speaks Spanish. So she and Nid have a very hard time communicating. They have to use sort of, they have to sign things, what they mean. But eventually she sees a map, and she points to a spot on the map. And Nid realizes this is where she wants to go. And all of this time, Nid is, trying to be a caretaker to this little girl. But Nid is not, he's not the smartest. He's not the bravest, and he's not the strongest. So there are some funny parts where he's trying to be a caretaker and basically stumbling over his feet and etc. So they go off to find this place, which is at the far reaches of the 7 Kingdoms. And on their way, they have lots of adventures and run into all sorts of people. Volume 1 ends with an intense cliffhanger, as well as lots of other questions that have been raised, and you want to figure them out. But the cliffhanger is very intense, and it makes you want to read the second one. It's also I found it very funny, and sad for Nid, but Nid's also a funny character. So, check it out. Juana, she's also cute. Okay, now we're going to move on to our graphic novels. Even though we've had some graphic novels in fantasy, these are in our graphic novel genre. That's it. Okay, so Spirit Circle 1 is the first one. I'll hold it up for you. So this one is by Stoshi Mizukami. And it's mainly about a 14-year-old boy who goes by Futa. And he's a pretty normal 14-year-old boy, you know, except for one thing. He can see and communicate with ghosts, which is a bit odd. And a new student comes to his school, Kuko, sorry. Oh, I'm terrible. Kuko. And, you know, he wants to be friends with her. He actually wants to be more than friends with her, but first he wants to be friends with her. She's very pretty. And he's also trying to ignore this tall ghost who's hanging out with her. But nobody else can see the ghost except for him. So he tries to ignore the ghost and just, you know, tries to become friends with a new student. And however, he has this scar on his cheek, and he covers it with a bandage. And Kuko takes the bandage off and sees the scar. And the moment she sees the scar, she despises him. And he doesn't really understand. And he keeps trying to be friends with her. But she says, I will destroy you. You know, it's mortal enemy kind of stuff. And then she uses the spirit circle to force him to re-experience a past life. And this happens several times. Now, what's interesting about these reincarnations, well, they're interesting as stories, first of all, but also there seem to be these connections between the character in one life and in the next, but they can't recognize it because they don't know they're being reincarnated. He only figures this out because she's using the spirit circle on him. But there are these slight connections between characters and as characters. Now, it might be in positive or negative ways, but there's a similarity in them, even though they're totally different and across all kinds of centuries and millennia. And so he keeps, he does this and then he does it again, and he can't, even though he knows their connection in one past life and how he's done something horrible in that past life, though he didn't really understand how horrible it was, he still wants to be friends with her in his present life. Even though, you know, the first time they talked, she threw him down the stairs. But he still just wants to be friends. And I guess the question this really raises for me is whether his hopefulness and his hope for the present to sort of overcome the past will win, or whether she will be so consumed by this fury that she will destroy his soul, which is what she threatens to do. It's a compelling story, and I'd like to read further. So that is Spirit Circle. Now, next on the list is Supergirl being super. Now, before I introduce this to you, I feel that I must be honest and tell you that I'm not super into like Superman and that whole fandom. I don't know why, but I just never got into that. I'm not a big superhero, except for when superheroes are sort of weird or odd. But anyway, that said, now I'm going to talk to you about being super. It's by Mariko Tamaka, who I think is an astounding writer of graphic fiction, and it's drawn by Joelle Jones, who's also highly, highly respected. And whether you consider this part of a comic series or standalone is actually an interesting question. But it is essentially the origin story of Supergirl. So Kara Danvers, or her original name, Kara Zor-El, is living the life of a quote-unquote normal teenage girl. She's hanging out with her two best friends. She runs on the track team. She's very upset about this monstrous zit she has. But at the same time, her powers, well, she keeps her power secret from everyone except for the family who found and adopted her when she was very small. And so nobody else knows about them, but suddenly they stop being reliable, you know? Usually she'd be able to jump out her window and fly, and then she jumps out her window and just falls. She can't fly all of a sudden. She doesn't understand what's going on, and she's very upset about it. And then this massive, horrific earthquake hits her small town. It kills people and injures people. And it's right around the time that her powers are failing her. And it's at this point that excuse me, Ciara realizes that not everyone in her life is who they see. And this realization leads her to more realizations and eventually lead her to make a defining decision about her life. Essentially to become super. And the art and writing in this book are fantastic. I totally dug it. And I say that as somebody who's not into like the super fandom. So check it out. And our last one for today is Satoko and Nada, Volume 1. And it's weird because when I look at this, it's opposite. So I try and straighten it and it goes more. Anyway, this is by Yupe Chika. And it follows the developing relationship between the two titular characters, Satoko and Nada. They're foreign students and they're roommates at an American university. So Satoko is Japanese and Nada is Saudi Arabian. They come from very different cultures. But because they ask each other questions and they listen seriously to the answers, they develop a friendship. Instead of sort of reacting immediately to things that they can see, the way people dress, the way they interact, instead of reacting immediately and saying, oh, I can't be friends with that person, they're weird, or they're strange, or they're too different, they inquire and they find out a lot more about who they are and where they come from, and they become friends. And then they each introduce each other to their cultures, their food, why they do certain things, and they end up having hilarious, like, friendship moments. They also have some hilarious encounters with American culture where they're quite amused. And they also become thoughtful and care for each other. So I thought it was an enlightening book and a warm and enjoyable book. Perhaps not so exciting, bang, bang, but I really enjoyed it. So that is the last of our graphic novels, and I will be back next week to tell you about historical fiction and horror, suspense, and mystery. But I hope you guys have a great week. Know that we miss you terribly, and that the library loves you, and that we can't wait to see you again whenever that happens. Virtually, maybe. But yeah, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough not seeing you guys. So have a great week. I'll see you later this week. Take care.